What's up, guys? Welcome back to FBC.
What up?
Where we are helping families navigate life through having real, transparent conversations.
How transparent?
Yeah.
Real transparent.
Ooh.
Real transparent?
Like, we not lying. Sometimes this stuff be in real time type real.
Yeah. So no filter.
No filters.
All right.
I think that's what they came to see.
Yeah.
Let's give it to them.
We need that. Anyway, today we have a really, really interesting conversation sparked by our very own Miss Amy Coleman. Girl.
What we got, sis?
We got a family letter, huh?
Hey, y'all. So, yeah, we have a letter today. It's just a synopsis, y'all. So, it's not We're going to call this episode Turning Pain into Purpose.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Pain into purpose.
Yep.
Wow, yeah.
It says, Dear family by choice, after going through some of the hardest years of my life, I feel like the pain has just left me bitter and empty. How can I take these difficult experiences and find a sense of purpose in them? Searching for meaning. That's what it's signed. Signed, searching for meaning.
Searching for me.
Searching for meaning.
Meaning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Searching for meaning.
Turning pain into purpose.
Yeah.
So this person has gone through some tough things in life, and now they're trying to understand how to utilize these tough instances,
Yes,
and turn those into purpose.
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty deep.
And find meaning because it's kind of left this person, brittle, like empty.
Okay.
Just feeling empty, probably a lot of unforgiveness.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of
maybe trauma.
Thing is, I'm nosy. I wish I knew what this person was going through. I'm nosy. You know what I mean?
I think she was afraid to be real vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
this
this
good
person
opportunity for people to speak on their own or put yourself in their shoes, because we all have some pain that we've turned into purpose.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Which has helped us and molded us into who we are today.
Wow.
So I think everybody can probably give a story or
absolutely,
to contribute to someone's life or this person's life. And anybody who's listening to us,
man.
So that's the part of us being transparent.
Yeah.
Just listening to what Amy read, the first thing that comes to mind, I'm always going to listen from an empathetic place. So I'm going to put myself in that person's shoes. So what I get from it, if it with me and the pain I've endured or we've endured as a couple, one of the things I had to learn early was that, your ear is like a womb. So what you listen to, you conceive it, and it will birth a reality for you. So I had to learn that, God loves me more than Satan hates me. So just changing my perspective to what I chose to focus on, who I chose to listen to, and understanding that when you understand God loves you more than Satan hates you, you are more prone to listen to the promises of God compared to the tragedy and trauma of Satan. Does that make sense?
Uh-oh. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Does that make sense? So for me, or for us, and I'll speak for me and you can speak for you, when it comes to turning pain into purpose, it's like, man, I just cut out all the negativity to the best of my ability. And sometimes it's hard depending on who it is. It's a lot harder for family, like your children, your parents, your wife. It's easier with friends and stuff like that because it's like you don't have to see them all the time.
Right.
But for me, that is what helps me do it.
So changing your focus.
Changing my perspective, changing my focus, and guarding my ear to what I'm allowing to get. Your ear, everything that comes in, the Bible talks about faith cometh by hearing. Well, so does fear. Fear cometh by hearing. Trauma comes by hearing and experiencing. So I'm always watching my gates. I could see something and it not affect me as much as something that I heard, depending on the speaker, if that makes sense. So that's what helps me.
What do you do about the pain that you've experienced? Like, even though you're not focusing on it, what are you doing about what you feel? Like when you experience the pain?
One, I try not to ignore it because then I feel like when you ignore pain, it's like sweeping it under the rug, but it's still in your house. So when people come over, it's like, man, this house stank. It's clean.
That's my pain.
It looked good, but it looked good. Everything looked new, but it stank. There's something off about it, and that's because you got stuff swept up under the rug. So when you ignore it or try to act like it don't bother you when it really does, it can. That's synonymous with sweeping up under the rug. So for me, address it and release it almost instantaneously. That's what I've learned in my 40s.
So let me
something I've always done.
Let me ask this, y'all, because now, like you just brought that up, and now that just kind of brought up something that I think, I mean, if I'm being transparent, may feel a little scary for me.
Talk to me.
What happens when you've swept pain for so long that you feel like it don't affect you no more?
You're numb.
The numbness.
I would say, because we were just talking about this at the church. We're doing a book club, and we're reading this book called The Garden Within.
Such a great book.
This is my second time.
Great book.
But we discussed that recently about an individual who said they were numb, like have no feeling. But what happened was they said to themselves, I want to feel.
Yeah.
Just the acknowledgement of, I want to feel. And by that acknowledgement, it's almost like it pulls the mask, because you weren't created not to feel.
Facts.
That's not how you were originally created. So you've got to understand that, okay, if I'm not feeling something, that means there's either a wall or there's some callousness that is covering the feeling. It's not that the feeling isn't there, but you have so many layers, or there's some type of blockade to where you can't experience the feeling. And so it's about identifying it, but first acknowledging the fact that I want to feel. And however that process happens or unveils itself, that's between you and God. But I do believe that if you acknowledge it, that it will begin to kind of unveil itself. And just by certain things, maybe you feel, you feel some way about the day. It's like, man, I really feel good about the sunshine in the day. Yeah. And acknowledging, like, I felt that. Like, I felt, you know what I mean?
So what about, and I am speaking for myself. Okay. Like, this is not me, like, hypothetical.
It's a real thing. I got you.
Right.
Like, we're having transparent conversation, because that's what we do here, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly feel like, I said scared because I feel like when it comes to the surface, I'm not really sure how it'll show up.
Yeah. And that's,
you know what I'm saying?
And that's, so you're suppressing it, which is something the other individual talked about, how she suppressed her emotion for so long that the mind is so powerful, man. And I know you know, because your wife went through a whole situation.
Oh, for sure.
And now she has studied the process of the brain. But it's so powerful. When you program it to be a way, it makes your whole body adapt to wherever you set your mind. What y'all say? If you control the head, you control the body. So if you set your mind to suppress so you can function. Me and Anthony did that for a period of time in our relationship. It's like we set our mind to, like, we're not going to focus on certain things because we have a goal in mind. Yeah. We have a goal in mind. But at some point, you're going to have to circle back around to what you tried to suppress, or you become numb.
Yeah. And it's the thing, because, like, I'm talking about a lifetime.
I got you.
I'm talking about young, seeing things, going through things, experiencing things where it's like, all right.
So you feel like if I deal with it, it won't make or break the situation.
I'm just saying, I've done it. I've suppressed certain feelings or emotions for so long that, and it's another thing that's kind of scary. I'm not even sure if they're really there no more.
No, they're there.
That's a whole nother thing.
No, they're there.
See, but that's what it is, though. What you're speaking of is, I know I've been through it. And coming and talking, now I was you were me at one point, and now I'm past that. I'm where she is or where she was in terms of discovering, I got to acknowledge this. I have to understand that there's something wrong with me in order for me to actually get to the bottom of what's wrong.
Right.
So we have to acknowledge what's there. So, and one of the things that we do as humans, a lot of times what we do is we try to marginalize other people's trauma. So, what B went through was trauma. But because I didn't go through what B went through, my trauma might not be as heavy so we marginalize it. When trauma is trauma.
It's
there's no marginalization of trauma. It is what it is. So regardless of what you went through and what I went through, we both went through something. So the answer on how to heal trauma is the same. It's no marginal. It is what it's the same answer.
Yeah.
It's only one answer. You have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You have to call it what it is.
So, okay, in the acknowledgement of trauma.
Yeah. That's the start.
I think, and I'm just speaking for myself, I feel like I've become desensitized in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
So, in the desensitization.
Desensitization. I
What
just pulled that.
And the desensitization.
Be-
In the saying, forget about it.
All right. We'll take it.
But, so when you feel like you are desensitized to certain things at such a deep level because of just early, like from the beginning, how do I start to climb out of that?
You got to dig that deep. See, you still carrying. That's the thing about trauma. Whatever age you start the trauma at, it doesn't go away. So if your trauma happened at the age of 2, until you heal or acknowledge that and I'm not going to say 2 because some people don't even remember certain things at that young. But I guess at the age where you can actually realize that trauma was what it was.
Right.
Something is hurting me. I'm feeling something. But then it keeps happening over and over and over to the point where I become numb to it. If we don't go back and get it the first time, we got to go back and talk to the first incident.
Yeah.
Where it first hurt. That's what we have to acknowledge.
So what about when you feel like it was an array of things? Like it's not even just like a one thing. It's like
it's all of
pop across
but
the board.
You
know what I'm
said
saying?
An array, right? Because you know that it's an array. You have the ability to actually call out every single thing. Because if you can tell me in this array, that means you know everything you've been through.
Oh, I know.
So we have to acknowledge the fact that what I went through hurt me. What I went through caused me harm. What I went through caused me to hurt other people. We have to call it what it is. And the moment we say, now, Father, I need to heal from this.
Yeah.
And then that's when he come in and do what he do. And it's a unrecognizable change and transformation.
Yes.
But it starts with acknowledging that it's there. And because it's an array, I know where every last one of these things is. I know I went back and literally pinpointed every single trauma. And I'm still pinpointing.
Right.
Because guess what? Me and my wife had a conversation last night. And she was like, Jason, you had a pretty good upbringing. And I said, I did. I did. I said, but I think people don't acknowledge. And then I started calling out things, and she was like, oh, you know what? I never thought about that. Just because people think that you have a perfect life, don't mean that you have a perfect life.
Yeah.
And that's the comparison thing.
And that's why you can't.
When they say that, they saying it compared to me or compared to this or compared. You know what I mean?
And that's what I mean. We can't marginalize that.
I get
because just because you lived a different type of life than me, I was telling my parents this. No, I was telling Amy this. I'm sorry. I was telling Amy this because we were talking about Hawaii and how pretty much the people of Hawaii are so poor, and then all these people with all this money come in, and they pour all this money, and then these poor people are serving all of these rich people that come into this island, right? And I made her, and I said, well, listen, I said, can you think about it like this? I said, what if they don't know they're poor? I say, what if they are happy? I say, you know why they're happy? I say because they have community.
Yep.
They help each other.
That's absolutely
they
right.
feed each other. They have a togetherness. They raising each other's kids.
Yep.
They making sure that everything is okay. It's what I see and what they see is two totally different things.
Exactly.
That's why we can't marginalize
Perspective,
things.
yeah.
Perspective is all in your eye. So if you keep it your perspective, then that's fine. But when you try to take your perspective and make everybody else believe it, then that's when it becomes a problem.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to take them folks' happiness away.
Yeah.
They got a sense of community that we don't. But and they probably deal with way less trauma than we do.
Right.
Because they have way less problems in terms of, because they have community. I think that's, if we have, this is community.
Yeah.
Us having this conversation is community.
And it's needed.
Me talking to B and B saying out loud, I'm dealing with this. That right there was a huge start, bro.
Yeah, man.
Whether you realized it or
For
not,
sure.
that right there was so huge because now we know where you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can meet you where you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now,
But are you open to therapy?
am I open to therapy?
Good question.
Definitely.
Okay.
I'm definitely open to therapy. It's something that I've considered. It's definitely something that I need to act on for real, because I feel like I need to talk to somebody who, one, don't know me, you know what I'm saying, or will receive me through the filters that they already have concerning me. I need somebody who just listen like,
It's going to take you a minute to find the right one.
what you mean?
Because I know you. I know you.
As long as you're trying to find the right one.
As long as you try.
I'm going to find the perfect therapist.
I mean, because you got to have one that's more clever than you.
Yeah.
That can say things, that can peep
Yeah,
how you
for
coming
sure.
and
Yeah, for sure.
address it
Yeah.
as needed.
Because your default will be to revert to
Right.
Laughter.
not even that,
Jokes.
because he's a storyteller, and I'm saying storyteller as in you're great at your verbalizing,
Not lying.
not lies.
Right.
But because you're a storyteller, you can kind of explain people in a different direction,
Facts.
and if they're not intelligent enough to see you tried to redirect me, let's go back,
Right.
then you will end up discussing something that's really not the root issue.
ain't
And
no-
that's
it
what
ain't
he's
no-
talking right, that's what he's talking about.
But I think the most therapists, because he needs what he's talking about is, we ain't talking about no counselor.
Right.
no
we talking about a doctor.
Right.
See, they're trained. Most of them are trained
Yeah.
to sense exactly what be, because they deal with narcissists. They deal with people with sociopaths. They deal, you know what I mean. So and a lot of that.
So
is,
because so hold on. So,
he definitely named some crazy.
so because
No,
they
I'm not
deal
saying
with
you're none of those.
narcissists and sociopaths,
No,
they should be able
none
to
of
deal
those
with me.
things, bro.
And they're
None
not
of
all
those
created
things.
equal.
They're not. No.
They're not.
You're none
of
So
those
they
things.
can have
For
master's
sure.
degrees because
No,
they,
for sure.
met the minimum
requirement. And
graduate.
normally that reflects in the price.
Exactly. And I get you in here for $40 an hour.
I'm gonna go ahead and keep it moving on that.
No, I wasn't about-
Yeah.
My
But,
insurance is
I
gonna take
wanted
care of this.
to, I wanted to say to B, man is a spirit. You possess a soul. You live in a physical body. So the soul part requires that therapist. But I want to make sure I say this before I say what I need to say. A lot of people use religion as a costume to hide who they really are, right? But I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about true relationship with Jesus Christ. That's for me, right? And, our audience may have different beliefs and different things. I'm saying for my family and I had to learn to allow the Holy Spirit to be able to heal my injuries. But God can't change who you're pretending to be. And when I say pretending to be, I'm not talking about you're a fake person. I'm talking about sometimes we put up these walls and we become callous and desensitized in certain areas. And that's not really the essence of who we really are.
Right.
And it's like, God can't change that. He can change who you really are. So like Jay said, once you acknowledge,
Stop believing the lie. That's Amy's turn.
once you acknowledge this hurt me, you give him access to come in and say, come on, let's let's walk this thing out. Let's walk this thing out. And it's not going to happen instantaneously. It's because the blow up or the evolution of it didn't happen instantaneously. It was a process.
Yeah.
So he's going to walk you through it and show you things, but it's dependent on your ability to be able to trust him.
So I'm hearing it's super important, even for that person who wrote that letter, to, I'm mentioning that person because that person is listening.
Right.
But I'm coming back to me.
Okay.
It's super important that I acknowledge the fact that there's places in my life that I'm not allowing God to heal.
Right.
And that's pretty deep.
Yeah.
But you're not the only one. There's a lot of believers go to church every week, sitting, listening to the pastor every week, hear the word goes into their ear, their womb, right? And they still, that's the best way to articulate it. Sometimes you get so used to the hurt, you don't know how to be who you are without it because it's been a part of you for so long. Does that make sense?
Amy's articulated that on this show before.
Yeah, for sure.
You just get lost in the sauce. And it's like, well, if I let that go, who am I?
And that's what you said, B.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what she just said. It's like, what happens if I start to pull back the layers? It's like, am I going to fall apart, or are people going to be hurt?
Well, I challenge you with the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, who will you be? That could be a great thing.
Or you can use the analogy
it could be an awesome
but you
thing.
can also use the analogy of a tree with the leaves. If dead leaves are hanging on to your tree,
Or pruning the tree, yep.
That's good, Jay. Talk about it.
Yeah.
when them dead tree leaves finally fall off, that's when them new leaves come out.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, like, not that you're counting on someone else or looking to someone else to help you heal, but just think about the disservice that you do to yourself and your family because of all of the things that you're missing. Just going back to, Jason, we've walked through just a transition in your life. You know what I'm saying? Over the past couple of years, just watching you pull back the layers and how that has touched your family in so many ways. They both talked about how it's touched their children, how, their children are changing their perspectives and other family members. Think about that. Like, you're such an amazing person.
Right.
Like, what else could God have inside of me that is being withheld because I don't want to let go of hurt for fear of?
Yeah.
And think about this. God is he's so good and so awesome that he's also mindful of all of what you're considering maybe casualties.
Right.
He's also mindful of all of that, which your healing could be the trigger for their healing. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I said I don't want you to look to other people for your healing, because I don't want you to do it for other people. I want you to do it for yourself. But sometimes we need inspiration. You know what I mean? And because you're big on legacy and just a position that we all know that you hold in your family, you hold such a pivotal space in your family tree that I believe, man, that if you were to really allow God to heal those spaces, you would really change the trajectory of your family lineage.
And the families that's connected to you.
We're talking business-wise, spiritually, you know what I'm saying?
Physically,
all of those things. I see the pictures. I see the images. I see the vision. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that you're holding it back, but what if?
But what if you can do it with no heaviness? Like light. Not carrying the load that you're carrying. I will say that. Yeah. I would say that, like, to the writer and to you. I would say that, I'm still dealing with it. I dealt with a lot of trauma in my life, and I'm still dealing with it, and it comes up. Like, it bubbles up. Yeah, sporadically. Out of nowhere, or it gets triggered out of nowhere. And so it's for me, it has, I thought I really did. I thought you deal with it, move on. I already dealt with that, right? I already dealt with that. I already forgave that person, or I felt like I forgave that person, and you move on. And then maybe something triggers that. It's like a familiar feeling,
Right?
So it's the familiarity of the feeling that you've always carried, and that familiarity can like pull you in,
Right,
or whatever. So I will say that you're forever healing. Forever.
Agreed.
We call
Forever.
it the good fight of faith.
Yes. You're forever healing. Sometimes it bubbles up, and it be a year or two later, 3 years later, 8 years later.
It's like grief.
It's like grief. Yeah. Like
when somebody passes away.
Yeah.
Grief is like love with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But how you felt when your mom first passed,
right,
isn't how you feel now.
Right.
It gets better, is what I'm saying.
It gets easier. Yeah, it gets easier to deal with.
The more you heal and the more you forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are still dealing with grief and things of that nature because they didn't treat that person the way that they were supposed to be treated when
That's
they
a
were here on
thing,
earth.
Regret.
for
So
sure.
regret and things of that nature does cause you to prolong the healing process, but you have to forgive yourself at some point. But to you, B, I want to extend this to you because I know that this is what God is doing for me. For you in this moment, understanding that healing and just to Constance's point, that by addressing these things, you might be unlocking the next level of your life.
Yeah.
You have dreams of opulence and you have dreams of a life that goes beyond the imagination. But imagine those things that you're not addressing, stopping every last bit of that.
Yeah.
You don't want to stop your family from being able to live the life that God has intended for y'all to live because you're not dealing with your stuff.
Or getting out the way of it.
So understand, let's go ahead and start plucking it because your time is now.
So we're saying addressing it, dealing with it, pruning certain things. So even before we can get to purpose, because these things are connected to purpose. Everything that we just talked about is connected to purpose.
Yeah.
Clean house.
So even for the writer of the letter, we're talking about turning pain to purpose.
Yep.
We got to deal with the pain for it even to be able to apply to purpose.
Just heal the pain.
Get over jump over the hump of jumping out the plane. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Stepping out the boat and walking on water.
Yeah.
Because it's going against all natural.
Yeah.
Your natural psyche and your natural senses is like, we don't walk on water. We can't walk on water. However, your dreams and your ambitions is flying.
Gliding on water.
So it's easy to see the flying, but hard to see the steps that it takes, like walking on water to get there.
Yeah.
So it's like, just use the same approach. And when I say use the same approach, it's like, I can't, the flying vision comes from God. So the stepping into the healing has to come from him too. So when I say get out the way, I'm saying don't try to feel like you have to cover it. Don't try and feel like you have something in you, in and of yourself, to be able to heal it yourself.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen that way. It's never going to. I've tried it, and
don't exist.
It almost cost me my marriage, my relationship with my kids. It's such a dangerous thing with the appearance and smell and odor of nobleness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that ego though?
It is.
Yeah.
That's all.
So
ego.
is and this is a question. Is the numbness, is that ego? Is that like your ego taking over?
Sometimes I feel like it's self-inflicted.
Okay.
Because you're dealing with something that 1 Peter 5:7 says, cast all your worries, your cares, your anxieties on him because he cares for you. What does that mean? It means we weren't designed to carry these things that we keep trying to hold on to. But sometimes they become so ingrained in us. Like you said before, we don't know how to be once it's gone. I've held on to this. I've been this way all my life. Yeah. So now this thing that was never supposed to be a part of you, that's why I said God can't change who you're pretending to be. He can't do that because it's like, that's not who I created you to be. So as soon as you realize you need me, humility is trusting, relying, and depending on God. Pride is trusting, relying, and depending on self. So when I say get out the way, I mean, you got to get over yourself.
Yeah.
You have to. Otherwise, everybody connected to you suffers.
Yeah.
Out of a place of love for you. Not just you suffer.
Right.
But everybody connected to you suffers because you have yet to deal with that one thing that just, it's like you're right there. You're right there on the threshold. But it's that one thing that needs to be dealt with that a lot of times we don't deal with it because it's attached to fear, but also shame. Guilt is feeling bad for what you've done. Shame is feeling bad for who you are. So it's like, if I face this, it's going to display the bad parts of me. And the fear comes in because it's like, am I ready to deal with that? Am I ready to face that? Because I know for me, and I think I've said on the show several times, man, I hated myself.
Yeah.
I did not like who I was. And, you know, I could say, man, well, I got a lot of this from this, or this came from that, and this came from this, and it came from that. And everything was me. And I'm like, wait a minute. No. As I got older, I had to evolve to, Lord, take this. I don't get this mess off of me.
I don't want none of it.
I don't want no parts of it. And I'm still finding things. I believe you'll be finding things to the day you take your last breath.
Yeah, you do.
That's just the way it
Man,
is.
if I look in the sky, I find something.
Exactly.
Every time, I promise you, man.
Pastors go through it.
So you look up, there it is.
The therapist, don't think you sitting in front of a therapist that just got it all together.
Right.
No,
They
got
going
stuff
through the
too.
same stuff too. It's in the community.
Yeah.
And the vulnerability and transparency where you can find out, finally, I'm not alone going through this.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what begins to help, man. So like Jay said, the first thing was saying, I deal with this.
Acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it. Philemon 1:6 says that your faith, the communication of your faith becomes effectual. Or in other words, it begins to work when you acknowledge the good that's in you. So acknowledge, Holy Spirit, you're here. I don't have to do this by myself. I don't have to sit up here and go back and forth with, I'm going back and forth with my thoughts, but you're really going back and forth with the enemy. He's saying things to you, and then after a while, he just leaves you on repeat. And it ain't even him no more. It's you.
All you.
I know this firsthand. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking to you based off of from a pastor standpoint. I'm talking to you like a brother who has gone through it, and it almost cost me everything. So I'm on guard for it now, with intention and on purpose, looking for it, because I know these are things that you've done so long they become habitual.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I was just looking back at the letter, and one of the things the family member said is that the pain has left them bitter and empty. And just listening to everything that has been said, that's a byproduct of wanting to hold on. Like Jason said, when you're holding on to that pain, you're holding on to that trauma, whatever that is that you're holding on to, that's what's leaving you bitter. You know what I'm saying? That's what's giving you that bitter taste.
Moment, at that very same time, it's if you can go back and remember something that happened to you at a certain age, you can remember who was around. You can remember what the sky looked like. You can remember the cars in the driveway. You can remember the song that was playing, the person that pulled into the driveway and jumped out. When you can remember all those things and you can remember it vividly, that means it's still bothering you. But it also means that all I got to do is say, man, this bothers me. I don't know why I'm still dealing with this. This happened to me when I was 10 years old. Why am I holding on to this? The moment that you acknowledge it is the moment that you free yourself.
Yeah, man.
And that reminds me of another part of the book I'm reading, where she was talking about how the body stores different experiences. So that callousness that you feel, that bitterness that the writer feels, is the body storing those experiences. Like we feel what we experience. So to Jay's point, when you start to acknowledge those, and one of the things you said is, I'm afraid of what will happen when I revisit that place and let it loose. But it's experiencing it and feeling it that gives you the release. And that's a trap. The trap is that you stay scared and that you never go back to that place because you think it's just going to break you down. But again, when you are including God in that space, he can help you. You know what I'm saying? And navigate.
Everybody has a God-sized hole in them or void in them that can only be filled by him. The problem is we don't acknowledge that we need him because, and I think I don't want to make this a race thing.
It's not a race thing. But go ahead. But
black people have, and I don't want to be one of those guys. All right. But we've mastered survival to the point where it's like subconsciously ingrained into who we are, and it's something we have to break away from. You know what I'm saying? I was talking to somebody.
I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about, They were talking about, I think they were in like flying school or something like that, but they were talking about pilots. And the person said, man, I didn't realize I was in poverty. I had a poverty mentality until I was exposed to something better. And once I got a hold of the better, it was like, man, I've been living all this doggone time thinking steak and shrimp was it. Or I've been thinking all this time thinking Ruth Chris was it. Whole time, Fleming's is the spot.
Right. Love Fleming.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I think, sometimes we just get in that comfort zone mentally and emotionally too. Comfort isn't just, this couch is comfortable or, it's a state of mind, really. And I think sometimes we get so comfortable that we're afraid if I lose this, will the next thing be good for me or will this be a mistake? And we just stay on the boat.
Yeah. So a word you said and a word you said, I've kind of put together and I kind of realized some things. Survival. Being a person who survives builds ego.
Because I got it out the mud.
Depending on how you acknowledge the survival.
So here's the thing. I'm talking about the black survival that you're talking about. The black survival that I came from.
The struggle.
Develop ego. Because I came. Now look. I ain't got to deal with none of that.
You ain't got to feel none of that either.
I don't got to feel it.
You don't have to feel it. You think you're not feeling it, but it does show up.
So it's like
bits and pieces.
It show up, but it's like, all right, look how I beat it.
Yep.
But really, we put it under the rug.
Look how he beat it.
Right. So when you lose sight of him,
so that's good, man. So listen, guys, this show.
Hopefully, we help the writer.
I think in the conversation and in the transparency and everything that we talked about in this circle, man, I think hopefully, I think they got what they needed to get. But man, we'll probably do a part 2 to this because there's some other stuff I could talk about and go a little deeper on. But it's been another episode, guys.
Family by choice,
Family by choice.
Man,
we're the building.
Come on. It's good stuff.
Yo, keep tuning in.
I see why y'all watching us, man.
Hey, we
healing.
Right.
We're healing.
Like
So
I said,
hopefully you guys are too.
We are helping families navigate life through real, transparent conversation. And we are navigating life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Together.
we helping y'all as we help ourselves. We are family.
Let's get it, man.
All right.